Hiya, my name's Stuart and I am a nursery teacher at Kingsgate School and I've been here for just over 1 year.
Great. Well, welcome, Stuart.
Thank you.
Can you start by telling us what or who inspired you to be an early years teacher?
So my cousin, she started as a teacher straight away after she left school. And I saw everything that she did at school. She talked about it a lot. She was very, very passionate about it. And she said to me, why don't you become a teacher? So we had a talk about it for quite a long time. I asked her lots of questions about what she did, because now she's a headmistress at her school. And she sort of said, yeah, I think you'd be really good at doing it. I went to visit my old school that I went to when I was at primary school, and went into the early years area and really, really enjoyed it. Also, when I first started teaching in the UK, I was in year 4, and my headmistress there said, we like what you do with the older children, do lots of fun stuff. Would you like to do it in early years? And I was a bit apprehensive, because I'd never done it before. She said, give it a go, if it doesn't work out, it's fine. But I tried it, I absolutely loved it. It was great fun, and I've carried on ever since, pretty much. And yeah, very much enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Well, I love seeing you and your students. Y'all are playing together and trying new things together. How do you get the little ones so excited about learning?
Oh, Mr. Stuart here. I'm going to read a story today called Quiet! I wonder what this story is going to be about. Let's find out. You've just got to make it as fun as possible, really. So, having lots of, different sort of things going on. So, you need to find out, what your children like, what they don't like. So, talking to them, finding out, what their interests are. Is it like dinosaurs? Is it cars? Is it, reading? And you sort of find out lots of things from them. So doing lots of talking with them, talking to parents as well, asking the parents, what do your children enjoy doing at home, and trying to bring that into the classroom. But just trying to make it as fun as possible. I think what I try and do, I find things that I quite enjoy as well. And I put them on the table, so lots of messy things. So we've had ice, we've had lots of toys, lots of building things, lots of water-based things. Lots of things that maybe they haven't seen before as well. So the children are always interested in something they've never seen before, or never done before, never experienced before, and they're always very keen to have a look at it and stuff and play with it. So it's just basically making it as fun and as interesting as possible. I think the name of the game in early years is fun through education. You need to educate the children in a way that they don't know they're being educated, because they're having lots and lots of fun, but learning through it at the same time. So that seems to be my mantra anyway.
You've led into the next question. Children learning through play. Can you explain to everyone what the benefits are? Like how is play-based learning different than just play?
So lots of people, when they go into an early years environment, think, oh, it's just like loads of children just playing with toys and stuff. What we try and do with the activities that we have around the classroom is we sort of look at the earliest foundation stage targets, and we create those activities to try and meet them. So, for example, if we're looking at something to do with literacy, for example, it may be learning their phonics, how to do their sounds. Okay, so we may have some activities to do with the phonics. Okay, so it could be writing the letters in sand with a paintbrush, or writing painting on ice and things like that. So we may be giving them a frame to use, have some letters, then getting them to write those sounds. Then maybe we would go over and say, oh, what's that sound? Oh, it's an ah. Oh, what's that sound? And then we combine it together like that. So it's trying to combine sort of having like a fun element in there, but then also thinking about what the criteria are for the learning. Same with maths, for numeracy as well. So for early years, we'll be being able to sort different colours or different objects into their groups. So having games like that, maybe having different coloured animals and then animal environments, having grass, trees, twigs, things like that, and then the children can be picking out, looking at all the different things, and they're playing with the grass, using the touch and stuff. And then again, that links in with the other elements of design as well, experimenting with different materials. So maybe sort of like a numerous element there, but then they're using different materials to, they're experiencing the different materials, feeling it, touching, knowing what it's all about. So, and again, as I've said before, it's just making that learning as fun and interactive and as engaging as possible. So it's not just sort of us thinking, oh, we'll put some cars over there and they can play with it. There is an element of, you know, they're grouping the cars, they're counting the cars, they're putting the cars in order of size, for example. It's all those sort of different sort of ideas that bring it together and meet all the criteria that you want the children to achieve in the early years environment.
Yeah, and those are great tips too for parents to do with their children at home as well.
Yeah, so when we send out the newsletters each week, when we're talking with the parents, we'll explain what the activities we've done in class, and then we may give them some suggestions. You know, so for example, if they're counting, you know, what number on a card and use like the materials you have at home, you know, pasta, rice, any of those little things. They haven't got to go out there and buy anything new.
Yeah.
They can just use like lots of the materials they have at home, and they can so easily replicate it. And you know, we show them pictures and we advise them on those sort of ideas and things too. So
that's great.
yeah, so it's great. Yeah.
Parents are always surprised when we tell them that in early years the students do science.
Yeah.
And they learn science. Can you talk about some of the topics you explore in science?
Yeah, so on the early years curriculum there is sort of a science aspect, which is called the world. And it's just sort of, you know, understanding the world around them. It's very, very sort of simplistic, but it's got the sort of main aspects of science. You know, for example, how different materials may react with each other. And a good example of that is, you know, making biscuits. So you have all these different ingredients, the children combine them all together, they change in the oven through heat, and then you have your final product there. So even though, you know, you may think of cooking, what's that got to do with science? When you think about it, it's lots of different materials reacting with each other, changing with each other. You've got the idea of heat and cold, mixing things, and then the final products from there. And then you can ask lots of questions with the children. So, what do you think is going to happen next when you mix these materials? Why has the mixture got bigger? Why has it changed colour? And there's lots of different sort of elements from there. We've also started growing some plants as well. So we start with a very small seed. You water it, you give it sunlight, you give it food, and over a course it will change. And then you have the food, and you can eat the food, and then you can take that food, reuse it, plant the seeds again. So you get that whole idea of you know, the life cycle, as it were. And there's also like the force, for example, you know, using cars and going down certain materials. So again, it's that sort of that fun idea, you know, experimenting, using lots of different materials and ideas, and then sort of getting the idea from there, really.
Yeah. Well, with the little ones, sharing is obviously a big topic. So how do you teach the little ones to share and compromise, and what fairness looks like?
So I've read a lot of research on sharing, and sharing is probably one of the hardest things for a child of that age to actually sort of understand. It's a very alien concept, and a lot of the research suggests that children of that age actually do find it quite difficult to share. It's something that they don't really sort of understand, because like when they're at home, they may be, you know, an only child, or they may be the smallest child, so they get lots of things given to them, and so they think, why do I have to give it to somebody else? So again, with this, you know, the play-based environment, we have lots of, you know, equipment that the children have. I think the idea of sharing is we have the equipment, we may not always give enough equipment for like every child to have, so it allows the children to, you know, one person may have it. You'll always get a child who will literally just go and grab something and try and take it out. We would observe that, and then we may sort of, you know, take those children aside, and then instead of just saying to the child, oh, you have to share, the child's going to go, what does that mean? That literally means nothing. So the way we try and do it early is ask questions. So if somebody has snatched something, we might ask the child, so how is that child feeling now? Are they feeling happy? Are they feeling sad? How would you feel if somebody did that? What could you do to make that child feel happy? And then someone will say, oh, I'll give it to them, or they'll play with that. So instead of just telling the child, and this happens all the way through primary, just saying, you have to share, you have to give your toys to somebody else, using lots of simple questions. Sometimes they might be, you know, closed questions, is that a good idea, yes, no, or what I try and do is use open-ended questions, asking about the feelings and stuff. How would you feel if you could, how would you feel if someone was saying, what could you do to make that child feel better?
Yeah.
Why is that a nice thing? What are you now doing now? And after a while, it takes a very, very long time, but after a while, you'll see the children sharing with each other, playing with each other. And sometimes you also have a child who is quite good at sharing, so you may use them as an example, say, wow, what's this child been doing? Why is that such a good thing? And using the children who are sharing as like a good example and going from there. But yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the most challenging things to try and do is the concept of sharing, as it's such an alien concept for a child, and it does take a long time, a lot of questioning and lots of playing with each other and interacting with each other. But after a while, they do get used to it, and they will do it, and they start showing. It's quite nice to see actually when they start showing. It's quite a sort of nice thing when you start suddenly see a child with something and says, there you go, and they're playing and everyone's happy at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about those kids that are, maybe they don't have other kids at home, or or just maybe the kids are way older? Do you find that when they come into your classroom that they know how to play together, or that they're open to play together, or is that something you have to teach and encourage, or is that natural?
It's very individualistic for each child. It all depends on the environment they've been brought up in. So that, as you said, usually if a child has had little experience with another child, or they haven't had much experience with other adults, sometimes they can be like that. But the good way of doing that is usually you'll have a child who has had that experience, playing with other children, playing with their parents or grandparents or other relatives, and you can sort of use those children as like, wow, what have they been doing? So it makes that child feel really nice, thinking, oh, I've actually done something really good, so they feel rewarded. And also you're showing the other children a good example, and then they can start doing it as well. It's another point where we talk with the parents again as well. So you might ask the parents, do they have any other family members that they can interact with, cousins, uncles, aunties, and usually on the whole, most of these children do have some relatives that they do talk to, or you may even encourage their parents. So you may go to them and say, if your child's maybe sort of struggling with playing with other children, maybe do this at home, so like 10-15 minutes, play some games with each other, playing with the Lego. Yeah. We don't sort of tell them, right, there's got to be a massive lesson. Literally, they just sort of get out some Lego, watch them play, and play with them. And so if like the parents are building something, the child can be building something, and we sort of go from there. But at school, because we have so many activities going on, at some point the children will come at one point and they'll start interacting with each other, start playing with each other, they'll start talking with each other, they'll find things that they both enjoy, maybe riding the cars outside, or feeling and touching the ice. They'll start talking with each other, and then you get the bonds of friendship happening, and they can happen very, very quickly. Even children who come in bawling with tears. Sometimes you might get a child coming up to them, sort of rubbing them, saying it's okay. We've had that last sort of 2 or 3 days. We had some new children coming in. They've been very caring, so it's great. Yeah, so it's a good atmosphere. It's a good environment for the children to bond with each other quite nicely.
What about language development and communication skills? So what methods do you use to foster and develop that?
I think what we try and avoid in early years is having the sort of, right, we're going to have a language lesson now. Because if you start doing it that way, it just takes the language out of context. As adults, for example, when we may learn another language, we may have a lesson, but the way we hone our skills and improve that language is by going out and actually using it. So you may go to a lesson and somebody tells you how to order a coffee, but if you don't use that, you're going to forget it. Whereas if you go out there, you go to a coffee shop, you use that language, you'll start to remember it and do it that way. So what we try and do in early is we try and create an as natural as possible environment as we can. So for example, if children were playing with some rice today, and I was asking Jen, how does that feel? and they were talking me through that. So having that sort of like natural conversation,
Yeah.
not something that's forced or looks too sort of fake or artificial, because the children need something to look, you know, natural, and then, you know, we will start talking to them. They'll start talking to each other because we're talking with them and stuff. And it just, you know, becomes a very natural sort of thing that sort of, you know, happens after a while. We do sort of use it in lessons, you know, for example, the phonics lessons, when we're teaching the children the sounds and blending the words. So like "and," for example, you can have a conversation with the children, say, "I am Mr. Hart, what's your name?" And the children will come back to you and say, usually what they say is, "My name's Brian." They'll just say Brian. And so then we would say, "Oh, my name is Brian." We don't try and force the children to say, "Now you need to say that, my name's Brian."
Yeah.
But if they listen to it after a while, the more and more they listen to it, they'll actually sort of pick it up. So usually when you go to the first child, they'll just say their name, then the second child, then the third child, then the fourth child will think, "Oh, actually, hang on a minute, I'm listening to what the teacher's saying, I'll try it." And then they sort of go from there and start picking it up. So that's quite a natural, actually having a conversation with them. It's not too forced, so we use those sort of things. In numeracy as well, when we're you know, using numbers and things, or size, for example, is a good thing. So, "Wow, how big is that, do you think?" And they start sort of talking from there. It's probably another thing as well, is avoiding the closed questions too much. So not asking, "Are you feeling happy?" Yes, that's not really going to develop anything. You may ask them, "How are you feeling today?" "Oh, what are you doing? How does that make you feel? What are you doing at the weekend?" It's just making it as natural as possible and having those activities that create the conversation. So, "Oh wow," so you have the ice, and you may ask the children, "How does that feel? It's really cold, it's chilly, do you like playing? Or how do you like playing with it? What do you feel when you are playing with it?" And they sort of pick up and they start talking to their friends about it and going from there. So just creating a natural environment rather than having that specific, "Right, we're going to do a language lesson, now you need to talk," because it just never works. They always forget it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was very surprised last week, a couple of weeks ago now, we saw your students walking around taking pictures with iPads. So how do you introduce them to technology and innovation in your classroom?
I think what we don't want to do with the technology, which sometimes can happen, is give them an iPad and we're like, "There you go, you can watch a video for 3 hours," because they don't, most of the time they just sit there like, and they don't really do anything. So the way of doing it is basically trying to do research on finding different apps that are suitable for younger children, and so, you know, teach them from there. So the photography thing was quite a simple thing because it showed them something else that an iPad can do rather than it just being there for video watching. And it's another good way, you know, of introducing them to, like, you know, a different type of art instead of just like drawing and colouring and painting. It's another artistic method. So it's really good because it's very simple to use. They go on it, they press a button, they can look at the pictures, and then want to look at the pictures again. They go through that. So it's a very sort of simple method of introducing them to ICT and technology and iPads. Another way of numeracy, so we was doing a lesson a couple of weeks ago where the children were sort of matching numbers. So we had like on the iPad, like a spinning spinner with numbers on it, so the children would press the button and spin round, then see the number, then spin again. So very simply, it does help with their fine motor skills, very, very simply, but it also introduces them again to something that an iPad can do, rather than it just being there just to take pictures and so forth. I know in reception they were using iPads for writing as well, so using their fingers to do the writing, which is another form, you know, instead of just using paper, you can use an iPad to write on, so they're writing their names, doing their sounds, so doing that. In the future, we'd like to, I've looked up and I think it is possible to try and get the children to design like a monster on the iPads.
Oh, that's very
Fingers
cool.
crossed, then use the 3D printers to then get them to make it, because then they can see that, again, an iPad isn't just there to watch videos. You can actually make something on an iPad, draw it, you go to another piece of technology and it prints it off. So I'd like to try it. I have worked with 3D printers before. They are problematic, but I reckon we'll be able to do it. It should be fun. And again, it's good because, you know, the children being introduced to something new. It's good for me because I'm taking a risk as well, and always telling the children, "Oh, you need to take risks, you need to take risks." So I think it's good for a teacher to take risks just as much as the children are. And if it doesn't work, we go to children and say, well, I'm not perfect either, we all make mistakes just as much as you do, so it's quite good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to teach students how to use this technology because this is their life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you talked some about parents and communicating through the newsletter. How do you make sure that parents are a part of this learning process with their child? How do you communicate?
So we're quite sort of lucky when we know at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, we're able to talk to the parents quite freely, and lots of the times they have lots of different questions. So we can see them at the beginning of the day, talk to them, ask them, is everything going okay at home? Are there any issues at home? Anything you want to talk to me about? And again, at the end of the day as well. So if the child's done something really good, we go to the parents and say, oh, look, the child's done really, really good, very impressed with them. And then on the flip side, if they maybe haven't done something that's not so good, we may go to the parents and say, look, something's happened at school, just want to talk to you about it. Is you're doing this at home, and things like that. Just so making sure that you're talking with the parents as much, and it's quite nice to talk to them, one-to-one. Always asking the parents if they have any issues or any problems to make sure they come to us and we talk with them. But we're very lucky that we see the parents every day, face to face, when we take the children from them, when we give them back. Regular emails as well about anything that's going on. So yeah, it seems to work pretty well. And if the parents got a slight issue, they always seem to come to us, talk to us. And yeah, it seems to work quite well, really.
Yeah, very good. Well, Stuart, let's finish off by you telling us, what is your favorite part of being an early years teacher?
Just all the fun activities, really. There's been times where I've sat down with the children, played with Lego for half an hour, and I've lost myself. And it's very, very enjoyable, building something with the children. It's always good when I like introducing to new things, different things, and it's always nice when the children see it and sort of their eyes go, wow, what is this? And they get stuck in, they make loads of mess, stuff goes everywhere, but at the end of the day, that's what early years is about. If there's no mess in early years, then you're not having enough fun. So yeah, just making it as fun as possible. And I think if I'm enjoying it there, then the children are enjoying it as well. And if the children are enjoying it, I'm enjoying it. So it's quite a nice sort of vice versa thing going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Incredible to talk to you. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you. Bye-bye.